Hi BookTube, my name is the Book Mage and welcome to my lockdown reading wrap-up. Or more accurately, I only read 3 books since the end of February and it was just The Hunger Games, aka here is my review of The Hunger Games. Yeah, 2020 has been a bit of a wild ride and my mental health has taken a big old nosedive, and so I've read basically nothing but manga since the end of February. February I was doing great. February I read like 13 books in February and it was fantastique. It was muy bien, chef's kiss, excellent, sugoi desu. As it is, I have been doing not so bueno in the reading front. If you saw my last wrap up, I DNF'd like 6 books in a row and then I couldn't pick up anything else to read. I could not force myself to read. My brain just wasn't having it. And then I think in April, question mark-ish, in April-ish, for whatever reason, my brain was like, we could read The Hunger Games. And having like not read any books for like over a month, maybe like 2 months, at that point I was just like, we could read a book? Books can be read? So I picked up The Hunger Games and I finished it in like 2 days, 3 days, which was pretty good because that was like my normal reading speed. I was like, hell yes, we can like get through this book. Started the second one almost straight afterwards. Read like 2 chapters, didn't read anything for like another 3 months or something. And then I think in like either late June or it might have been like late July, I don't remember, I finally read the second book and then forced myself through the third book. So yeah, congratulations. I, for the first time ever in 2020, read The Hunger Games. I had never read them before. And if you're wondering why they're not on my shelf, they're in the corner and I don't want to mess up my stack and try and get them out. I feel like everyone here already knows what The Hunger Games is. So yeah, I knew what to expect going into this. I've seen the films, so I already knew the whole plot and how it was going to end and everything. Having said that, I don't think knowing all the spoilers hampered my enjoyment of these books at all. I feel like having seen the film, it gave me like a whole new appreciation for the book because I was much less interested in like the plot because I knew it was going to happen. I knew how everything was going to end and I could focus so much more on like the writing and the characterization and all like the extra little details that fed into things that I already knew were coming. Before I even like properly start this review, I am going to go out and say, like, not even a shadow of a doubt, these are the best YA books I have ever read, and I think these are the most well written YA books. I genuinely think these are the best written, like the highest quality of YA books. And so yeah, I just kind of want to gush honestly about the Hunger Games books. I think I gave the first book like a 4 stars or something because it's just honestly a really genuinely good book. And I say that as someone who nearly only reads fantasy and almost never reads YA anymore because I'm always disappointed with YA. So bearing in mind, it's been many months since I've read these books and they kind of all blur together a little bit, but my basic kind of summary is that book 1 is fantastic and I gave it like a 4 stars. It was really interesting. It was a fantastic like introduction to the world and the characters, and Katniss as a protagonist has a very, very clear goal, a very specific place that she's trying to get to. The fantastic thing about this book and reading about her in the arena is that literally every single thing she does, everything she thinks, every action she makes is tied to her goal. There is not a single sentence in this whole book that is just like extra nonsense. Every single thing is either characterizing her in some way or is directly like related to the plot. She is such a proactive character. She is such a proactive character. Every single thing she does is like, right, I need to do this, I'm moving towards my goal, and she's constantly just like trying to get to her end game, and I appreciated that so much. After reading about so many whiny, wishy-washy like characters, especially in YA, it was so refreshing to see a character who's like their brain was just focused the whole time on like, I need to get to this point, I need to do this thing. And like, it's fine because she is a flawed protagonist. Like, she makes very headstrong decisions and very firm decisions, and she's very stubborn. Like, she knows what she wants to do and then she will not be swayed from that path, but her actions do have genuine actual consequences and she does learn from them. And there are many situations where, and I never see this in YA because the characters are such stupid, stubborn teenagers, but it's not like that here. I can't believe it's not like that here. There are so many points where she will realise that she's messed up before and that maybe other people know more than her, and she will go out and ask the people around her that she knows that are more experienced and more knowledgeable, and she will ask them and be like, actually, what do you think we should do? And maybe she will do it and maybe she won't do what they say, but she explores her options and like she listens and she gets information, and it's so, these are like the bare minimum things for a character in a book, and seeing it in like an adult fantasy or something, I'm used to it, but seeing it in YA was just so shocking to me that like the character had a brain. Everything she did was so in keeping with her character. Every like, oh, just absolute chef's kiss to this book and the way it was written. It's not the best book ever written. I feel like I've just seen such bad YA and such poorly written YA. I will say, the thing that I think I really liked about it is a lot of YA books seem to be, how do I put this? I know that they're meant to be written for teenagers because a lot of the time the protagonist will be like 16 or 17 years old, but the writing itself is very patronising, and I don't know whether that's because it's written by like an adult man or an adult woman like looking back and thinking, oh, kids are dumb, so let's just dumb this down, or let's like censor things or make it like just I don't know, too kid friendly, so that maybe they're trying to widen their audience. But I feel like by making something like, the difference between like a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old, they're technically in the same category of books. In the UK we just call it teen as opposed to like YA, but if you're 13, you're reading from like the same shelf that like a 16 or 17-year-old is going to be reading from, and obviously you've got like wildly different like perspectives there. Those two readers are probably going to want very different things. And I think the thing that Suzanne Collins does that I really appreciated was none of this was dumbed down, none of it was patronising. Like, the exposition was done very well, but there are some very, I guess, like bleak topics to cover in this book, and she does not sugarcoat it or shy away from it at all. She makes like a very, it's not too explicit, like it feels like rather than trying to censor it or anything, she's given you enough that it feels very realistic and very like harrowing, but not in a way that's over the top that you would get in like a grimdark or something. It's enough that it's not, it doesn't feel patronising, it doesn't feel like I'm being talked down to as I read it. I feel like a lot of other YA tends to kind of like skirt around difficult subject matter or just sort of try not to cover it at all or just allude to it, whereas Suzanne Collins is like, she will show you it completely on the page. There's obviously like a lot of death and gore in these stories, and I just like that they weren't sugar-coated and they didn't feel patronising, and she didn't sort of like dumb her language down at any point. I just felt like I was reading a genuinely really well written book, a really good book that just so happens to be for a YA audience, as opposed to something that's like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of other YA is like too, I don't want to say lowbrow, but you know what I mean. A lot of other YA has like no writing style, or it's very basic, or it's kind of patronising, and I don't like that. Whereas this was just, it was good, it was well written, and I feel like every sentence on the page was necessary. Like, none of it was fluff or just nonsense. There's a lot of times in other YA where there's just pointless stuff happening for the sake of like self-indulgent, like, oh, I want to see the characters do this or do this, and it's like, sometimes that's fine. But in this, everything serves a purpose. Everything is to do specifically with a plot. Everything leads somewhere or joins onto something else. There's no like bit that's unimportant. And I liked that. It was so refreshing to see something that had been clearly very well thought out and very well crafted. And I can't believe I'm saying that about The Hunger Games, because having watched the films like when I was younger, I was just like, it's just another one of these like YA sort of things, because there was a lot of films coming out at about the same time, a lot of other books that were all kind of like the same thing, and dystopia is not kind of like my genre. But I can see why these books get so much hype, because it is actually well deserved. And I feel like, coming from me, you should trust that, because I never say stuff like that. Hardly ever about YA and hardly ever about anything dystopia. Yeah, I'm just genuinely kind of shocked at how much I actually enjoyed these books. I remember messaging my friend who is a massive Hunger Games fan, and I was like snapping her and being like, these are actually good, what the hell? And there were like certain parts in the book, like I knew the twists and turns from the movies, but the way that the writing on the page actually like elaborated on things or delivered like a punchline, sometimes I would just be like, oh my god, and I would have to snap her and just be like, I knew it was coming, but oh my god. So yeah, so I will say book one was by far my favourite. It was so straightforward in like its plot and its goal. The story is obviously she's drafted to the Hunger Games, and it is like halfway through the book that you get to the arena, but once you're in the arena, it's so entertaining, it's such good reading, it's so fast-paced, and just everything about it was so good to read. It's like, no wonder it hooked me and kept me reading so much and so fast, and it managed to keep me engaged, because like I knew what was going to happen, so like the mystery of it didn't engage me, but the genuine just writing on the page did, and it was so good. Yeah, I will say book 2, again, it was like slower, but I did enjoy sort of seeing a bit more of Panem. I liked it less than book 1, but I did still very much enjoy going back to the arena. I feel like the arena is my favourite bit of these books. It's like just, it's the biggest, best bit of these books. It's the Battle Royale, and I'm here for the Battle Royale. It's good. So yeah, I did enjoy book 2, not as much as book 1. I feel like there was a lot more character development and a lot more like interpersonal stuff going on between the characters, and there was a lot more build up to going back to the second games. But I will say I liked it less than book 1. Book 1 was so much more contained and so much more direct and straightforward, and I genuinely tend to always like the first book in a series, usually more than the ones that follow, and that was the case here. I still liked book 2. It just took me a while to get into it and get back into the swing of things, and I did have a big break like between starting it and finishing it. But ultimately, I did also really like book 2. Book 3 was kind of a slog, because there was no arena. There technically is, kind of, sort of. There is an arena-like part at the end, obviously. It's not quite the same, and I feel like there's a lot more build up and a lot more, like, I don't want to say politicking, but there's a lot less direct action on the page, I think. I mean, there was a lot of action, don't get me wrong, but yeah, book 3 I just enjoyed a lot less. I feel like book 3 relied so much more on not necessarily knowing where it was going to end up, and because I did know how all the films ended, having seen them, I therefore knew how the book was going to end, so I was much less engaged in like this, I don't know, threat of life and death, like, are you going to win, are you going to lose, because I already know how it ends. I've seen it. And whereas book 1 had so much more to keep me entertained, even knowing the ending, book 3 didn't. I feel like book 3 was probably so much more entertaining if you went into it blind. Obviously I couldn't do that, but I still enjoyed it. I think I gave it like, maybe like a 3, I'm not sure. It was pretty middle of the road for me. I still liked, I guess, like the characterization, and I really like the, I guess, like mental and physical toll that the story takes on characters. So many other YA books will not, I don't know, mar their characters in any way. They will keep their protagonists like perfect and pristine, and even by the end of the book they'll be like, I don't know, they might have like an additional quirk or some slight, I guess, maybe slight change in personality, usually for the better. They usually become like a little bit more hardened and like tougher, and that's it. Whereas it's the complete opposite here. Characters get very real, lasting physical injuries that stay with them the whole book and are mentioned a lot because they come up a lot, like they have lasting consequences, and especially like the mental aspect of a lot of things. It was so refreshing to read a story about like a young protagonist experiencing like horrible things and actually having like a genuine reaction to those things. It wasn't just like, oh, my protagonist, you know, has to kill people or see some dead bodies or something, or like their village was slaughtered, blah blah blah, and they just don't react to it. It's like, no, it stays with Katniss forever, and the more things that happen to her and the characters around her, like, just the more affected they become by it, and the more it's something that they have to live with every day. It's so present in her character. I feel like her characterization is done so well and her development is done so well, and by the very end of it she is such a different person, but you can see exactly how she got to that point, and it just felt so realistic to have genuine, actual, lasting consequences on all of these characters. Not just like a bit of wishy-washy growth, it was like actual genuine development, and not always in a good way, because it is a dystopian novel. Because I haven't seen any other YA really try and go there in a genuine way that seems realistic, still maintain that it is for like a teen audience. I feel like it was done so well. My camera cut off, but yeah, I just enjoyed reading something that was that well written. So with that said, yeah, I feel like this was a bit of a haphazard sort of all-in-one review of The Hunger Games, but I do have to say, it's not the kind of thing that I normally read on this channel, but I feel like the praise I'm giving it is so deserved. And I don't know, I wouldn't have felt very genuine having read these books and loved them so much and raved about them like to my friend who also loves the genre and also really loves The Hunger Games. I don't know, it would have felt kind of not very genuine for me to just not talk about them, just because it doesn't necessarily fit with everything else on my channel, and also it's kind of like a weird wrap up because I've only read one series of books and it's been like 8 months. So yeah, these were just my genuine feelings on these books, and I really liked them. I think the series overall I would give maybe like a 3.52, but the first book is like a definite 4 stars at least. If you still read YA, if you like YA and you enjoy YA, or you just enjoy dystopia, and maybe you've just sort of like, I don't know, snubbed The Hunger Games because, like I did, because I'd seen the films and they were okay. I wasn't that impressed, but I don't know, just sitting down to read the books was genuinely enjoyable and entertaining, and I just thought they were really good. So yeah, if you haven't read them yet, I would definitely say definitely give it a go. Yeah, from someone who mainly just reads adult fantasy, a YA dystopian is one of the best books I've read this year, that first one. So it comes highly recommended from me, someone who objectively wouldn't normally like something like that, which I guess says enough. So yes, thank you for watching this probably strange kind of rambly rant just on how much I enjoyed these books, and I guess now you know what I've read during lockdown. Other than like a lot of manga, this is basically it. These are the only books I've read, which is sad. I've literally read like 3 books in like 8 months. It'll probably be 9 months soon actually, so like I've read 1 book in the space of 3 months each. So like more or less every 3 months I've read a book. Hopefully I will get out of my reading slump soon. We can only hope. But yes, thank you guys for joining me for today's video, and hopefully you guys will check out the rest of my channel where I do a lot of fantasy themed videos and unboxings and book hauls and that sort of thing. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any other strong opinions on The Hunger Games. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you feel the same way I did? Are you now considering maybe picking it up for the very first time ever based on this? I doubt it, but if you are, please give it a go. And yeah, so that's it from me. I hope you're all reading something really good during this kind of awful 2020 period. It is now more than ever probably the best time to escape a little bit into books just for like some self-care. So I hope you're really enjoying what you're reading, and yeah, that's about it from me. Peace out, BookTube!